Warrior Cats, Crookedstars Promise by Erin Hunter, Chapter 27. Mapleshade. Dreaming, Crooked raced through the forest. Dark earth sprayed behind him as he barged through the tangled undergrowth. Mapleshade, where is she? He had so much to ask her, questions that had been churning in his belly for days, nagging and nagging till he had to have answers. Why had she put Willowbreeze's life at risk? Why had she clawed him for saving a clanmate? What about his destiny? When was he going to get his first apprentice? How long till he became deputy? Would he follow Hailstar or Shellheart? Shellheart. Crookedjaw stumbled to a halt. Who, if he became leader, would have to die over and over before Crookedjaw took his place? Crookedjaw felt sick. It was bad enough waiting for Hailstar to lose his last life. He didn't want to count off his own father's deaths while he waited for his destiny to come true. Higher. A sharp growl sliced through the mists. Faster. Do you want to die at the paws of a common warrior? Crookedjaw heard a grunt and the thud of hard muscle hitting earth. Did Mapleshade have another pupil? He crept forward, ears pricked. Ducking behind a thorn bush, he saw two shapes moving in a narrow clearing. As the mist spiraled away, two pelts showed, one ragged, one sleek. The ragged mentor wasn't Mapleshade. It was a cat he'd never seen before. But who was the sleek Tom? Crookedjaw searched his memory. There was something familiar in the wide, muscled shoulders and the dark tabby pelt. Do it again, the ragged cat snarled. Do it better. The sleek Tom took a short run up and leaped, higher than Crookedjaw had seen any cat jump. With the flick of his tail, he twisted in the air, kicking out his hind legs. Claws splayed while he punched the air with his forepaw. He hit the ground with a thump, landing on his side. Crookedjaw felt the jolt, gasping as though the breath had been knocked from him instead of from the Tom. The ragged cat was on his apprentice in an instant, battering his head with a flurry of swipes. Crookedjaw flinched as blood sprayed from the torn fur. The Tom struggled free and met his mentor's blows with vicious, slicing jabs. The jagged cat ducked away. That was better. Blood welled on both cats' muzzles, and as Crookedjaw peered closer, he could see the Tom's pelt was laced with slash marks. Let me try it again, Shredtail, the Tom growled. Again? Crookedjaw swallowed. He thought his training session with Mapleshade had been brutal, but they were never this violent. These cats acted as though shedding blood meant nothing. In a flash, Crookedjaw recognized him, Thistleclaw. He'd been the ThunderClan warrior He'd seen the ThunderClan warrior at gatherings. Thistleclaw took another run up, leaping once more and twisting. This time he finished with the move before landing on his paws. Yowling with triumph, he reared and slashed the air. This is it, he faced his mentor. My time is coming. Shredtail nodded. You've worked hard for it, Thistleclaw, and I'm going to get it. I'll be deputy before the next full moon. Are you sure Sunstar won't soften and choose a blue fur instead? Shredtail snarled. Thistleclaw narrowed his eyes. He'd be a fool if he did, he growled. Blue fur is weak. I bet she's whimpering for Snowfur right now. Grief can bring strength, Shredtail warned. But Snowfur's body is hardly cold, Thistleclaw pointed out. Blue fur will be breaking her heart for moons, which will give me a chance to make Sunstar see that I'm the only one capable of following him. Snowfur was your mate, Shredtail narrowed his eyes. Aren't you grieving too? Of course. Thistleclaw slashed at a moss-coated tree. Snowfur shouldn't have died. It should have been Blue fur on the Thunder Path instead. What about your kit? Shredtail pressed. Your son. Thistleclaw curled his lip. He takes after his mother, he spat. There's no fire in his belly, no hunger for battle. He swung his gaze around to his mentor. Why are we talking? He snarled. I came to train, not to talk. Rearing up, he strode forward on his hind paws, slicing the air with his tail tucked in tight. Crookedjaw backed away, cold to his bones. He'd never seen a hunger for blood like this, not in the battle for Stunning Rocks, not even when Hailstar nearly killed Reedfeather. He turned and ran, scanning the trees as they flashed by, hoping to catch a glimpse of Mapleshade. He skimmed bushes and swerved around trees, running faster and faster, praying he found her. Crookedjaw. Paws shook him awake. What? He lifted his head. Willowbreeze sat beside him, her pelt still ruffled by sleep. You kicked me, she mewed. Were you having a bad dream? Kind of. He stretched in his nest. The small den they had woven into the crook of the tree was warm and cozy. Willowbreeze leaned down and touched her muzzle to his. Well, you're awake now. She patted out of the den, and Crookedjaw sat up. Why couldn't he find Mapleshade? He flexed his claws. Had something happened to her? This was StarClan. Cats lived forever there, didn't they? He digged out of the den, looking around the clearing, relieved when he saw Oakheart picking sleepily through the frosty remains of the fresh kill pile. Poor Bluefur. Losing a littermate must be heartbreaking. Shellheart was beneath the willow, organizing the day's patrols. Cedarpelt, Timberfur, Mudfur, and Petal Dust crowded around him. Beetlenose was washing, but his ears pricked when he heard his name. Fullclaw was staring wistfully at the fresh kill pile, while Whippleclaw murmured in Greypool's ear. Crooked called across the clearing. "Can I hunt this morning?" His breath billowed in the air. He wondered if there'd be ice on the river. Shellheart nodded. "Take Mudfur and Petal Dust." He waved the two warriors toward Crooked with a flick of his tail. "Can Oakheart come too?" Crooked asked. Oakheart looked up. "Come where?" "Hunting." "Great." Oakheart picked up a fish and headed for the nursery. "I'll just deliver this." Willowbreeze ducked out of the elder's den and padded down the slope. Her paw suddenly slid on the frost and she skidded clumsily to the bottom. "The kids will be happy," she joined Crooked. "They've got an ice slide to play on." Ice? Frogkit was already tearing across the clearing. He bounded up the slope, then half ran, half slid down it, squealing with delight. Crooked purred out Willowbreeze. "I'm taking Oakheart, Petal Dust, and Mudfur hunting," he told her. "Do you want to come?" She shook her head. "I promised Birdsong I'd help her find moss for her nest. She nearly froze last night." "Come on, Crooked-Jaw." Mudfur was pacing the entrance in a cloud of his own breath. "See you later." Crooked-Jaw brushed muzzles with Willowbreeze and hurried after Petal Dust and Oakheart as they made for the gap in the reeds. Outside camp, the air was even colder. "I hope this is just a snap." Petal Dust sighed. "It's still leaf fall." They passed the stepping stones and followed the shore downstream past the alder grove and along the bank where ferns and hawthorns grew right up to the water's edge. Splashing through the shallows, Crooked-Jaw led the way to a rocky outcrop that jutted out into the river. The rocks smoothed into a flat stretch of stone, only a whisker higher than the water. Crooked-Jaw sat close to the edge and peered down into the river as it swirled past. Deep and clear, he could see through the brown water right down to the weed streaming on the riverbed. A fish slid past, too deep to reach, but he waited and another followed, soon after, closer to the surface. Excitement flashed in his belly. As he darted a paw into the water, grasping at the chill, he hooked out the fish and flicked it onto the stone. With a quick lunge, he gave it a killing bite and turned back for another, anticipation tingling in his paws. "Nice catch." Oakheart crouched beside him, ready for his own. He stared at the water speeding below his nose, muscles bunched in anticipation. Then, with a mew of satisfaction, he plunged in a lightning-fast paw and snatched out a trout. Mudfur leaned over the water. "I want to catch a carp for Leopard Kit," he murmured, eyes fixed on the water. "It's her favorite." Petal Dust plunged in both her front paws. Crooked turned in time to see her lift a struggling pike from the water. It was a half-tail length long and thrashing wildly. He sprang over to help, but as he grasped the fish, Petal Dust lost her balance. With a yelp of surprise, she stumbled into the water. As she bobbed, gasping to the surface, the pike struggled in Crooked-Jaw's paws. He pinned it to the stone and killed it with a bite. Petal Dust swam for shore, padding out onto the bank. She shook out her dripping pelt. "Did you get it?" she called. "It's fresh kill now," Crooked-Jaw assured her. Oakheart's whisker twitched. "I didn't know you wanted to swim," he teased. Petal Dust paced the shore, trying to get warm. "I didn't realize it was so big." Mudfur gave a triumphant mew as he fished a carp from the water. "Let's take these back to camp," Crooked-Jaw suggested. "Then we can come and catch more." Petal Dust stared across the river into the Thunderclan's forest. "I wonder why they never catch fish like us." Mudfur shrugged. "They're scared of water. They'd drown if they fell in." Oakheart tasted the air. "No fresh markers on their border." He leaned forward. "I wonder where they are today. They're usually a warrior or two yowling at us while we're fishing." Crooked-Jaw's dream flashed back to them. "They're probably mourning Snowfur." Oakheart snapped his head around, eyes glittering. "What?" Crooked-Jaw shrank beneath his pelt. "Fish brain? How am I going to explain this?" "Are you sure?" Petal Dust blinked. Crooked-Jaw's thoughts whirled. Mudfur sniffed his carp absently. "Who told you?" I heard a border patrol the other day when I was guarding Sunning Rocks," Crooked-Jaw stammered. Oakheart tipped his head. "Why didn't you mention it?" Crooked-Jaw glanced at Mudfur. It seemed too sad. There was at least truth in that. Petal Dust padded along the outcrop and joined them on the stone. "How did she die?" Crooked-Jaw glanced at his paws. "On the Thunder Path, I think." "The Thunder Path?" Oakheart echoed. Crooked-Jaw looked up. His brother's thoughts seemed to have drifted into the forest. "It's okay," he reassured him. "There's no Thunder Path on our territory." Oakheart watched a fallen leaf swirling downriver. I'm sorry for Bluefur, he murmured. She must be so sad. Crooked sighed. Yeah. He picked up his fish in his jaws and clambered over the rocks, beckoning the patrol with his tail. He headed toward the camp. Fort Trees was lit by a cold, white moon. Crooked gazed up through the rattling leaves. Silver pelts stretched across the night sky. Which one is Snowfur? It had been a quarter moon since his dream, and Crooked was surprised to see that Bluefur had come to the gathering. I hear fishing is still good, Holly Flower's mew snapped him back to the conversation. He's been sharing news with a group of mixed clan warriors. Yes. Bark's heart shivered. It's bad enough getting wet, but in this weather? I guess. Goldenflower, ThunderClan's newest warrior, didn't seem to be listening. She was staring across the clearing, her eyes dark. Crooked followed her gaze. She was watching Bluefur. The grey warrior was talking to Oakheart. He must be offering his sympathies. Goldenflower stood up. I'll just make sure Bluefur is okay. She leaped through the gathered cats. Crooked Hellstar was approaching. Where's Oakheart? I want him to tell the gathering about the pelt dens. Some of his tactics are worth sharing. The two legs may start building dens on the other clan's territory. He tipped his head to Hollyflower. Pray start when they don't. Oakheart's going to address the gathering? Gridjaw felt a flash of worry. Was Hellstar grooming his brother to be RiverClan's next deputy? He's over there. He flicked his tail toward Oakheart. Thanks. Hellstar patted away. I'd better warn him. As the leaders made their reports, Crooked huddled among his clanmates. He hunched his shoulders against the cold night air, studying Oakheart through narrowed eyes. As his brother waited calmly at the foot of the great rock, Crooked swallowed back jealousy. RiverClan, too, has enjoyed plenty of fresh kill recently, Hellstar began his report. The river has been full of fish and it's been stocked with prey. The RiverClan leader glanced down at Oakheart. Only one cloud has darkened our horizon, he beckoned with a nod. Oakheart has more information. Murmurs of surprise rippled around the clans as Oakheart bounded onto the great rock. The great rock's for leaders, growled a ShadowClan warrior, not junior warriors. Gridjaw stuck out his chin, suddenly defensive of his brother. Listen to him, he snarled. He has important news to share. The ShadowClan warrior's claws scraped the frosty earth. Crooked flexed his own. No one criticized Oakheart. I am sorry, Oakheart began, his voice carrying clearly across the hollow. I do not belong here, but with so many cats I was afraid you wouldn't be able to hear me from down there. He nodded to the shadowy base of the rock. I hope you will forgive my boldness. I do not mean to offend. Crooked felt a glow of pride as the murmuring ceased. The cats were pricking their ears and raising their muzzles, eager to hear what Oakheart was about to share. He glanced around, basking in his brother's success. Then he spotted Bluefur, ruffled and scowling. Beside her, a pretty clanmate was staring at Oakheart, her eyes shining as though she was watching a StarClan warrior speak. He did look like a leader up there among the other cats. Crooked shifted his paws, worry flashing back. But I'm the one with the great destiny. The journey home seemed to take much longer than usual. Petal dust was bouncing around Oakheart. Everyone was listening to you, her eyes shone. Weren't you scared? Fullclaw snorted. What was there to be scared of, he muttered. There's a truce. But he had to speak to so many cats, Petal dust shuddered. I'd hate it. Crooked slowed his pace, falling behind his clanmates as they crossed the tree line into ThunderClan forest. He didn't want to hear how great Oakheart had been. A pelt brushed beside him. Brambleberry. You wish it had been you on the great rock, she murmured. Crooked bristled. No, I don't. She snorted. Don't worry. It'll be your turn soon enough, and there's plenty to keep you busy until then. There was an edge in her mew. How do you know? Crooked narrowed his eyes. Have you had another omen? Why did he bother asking? Even if she had, she wouldn't tell him what it was. But curiosity kept pricking, sharper and sharper. Brambleberry was silent as a fish. There was clearly something on her mind. How do you know it'll be my turn soon? Crooked repeated. Brambleberry jumped into a fallen tree that blocked the trail. She paused on top and stared down at him. Nothing's for certain. Her eyes were darker than the shadows surrounding her. The power is within you to be a fine warrior. She slid down the other side, and Crooked followed, heart quickening. She went on as he fell in beside her. Every cat knows that you're going to be great, just from watching you. Her gaze flashed up through the overlapping branches. The stars don't have to decide everything for us. Really? Crooked flexed his claws. Brambleberry knew nothing. Then why am I being trained by StarClan?